Okay, man, first things first, we're going to have to download this file. So when you click on that, it should bring you to my Google Docs page where I've shared it. Don't pay any attention to any of this stuff. You want to go right up to the download button. Make sure you save it, because if you don't and you just open it, you could be editing the file that everybody else is trying to download. So save it, and then go double click on it, find where you downloaded it, double click on it, and open it in Flash. Alright, once you're here in Flash and you have it open, we have layer 9, and I have layer 6 hidden. That's some extra parts of him, and that's in a 3/4 view. Notice how his shoulders are slightly turned. Or I take that back. He's facing us. So none of these parts are symbols, but if you wanted to use any of this, you'd have to right-click and convert that to a symbol, give it a different name. But for now, you can just hide this layer if you don't want to use it. We're going to use layer 9 to start. I'm going to bring in his head, for instance, his torso. And if you get something like this, you can always right-click, go to Arrange, and send it backwards to get the proper layering within a layer. Now I'm going to zoom out for this part. Then I'm going to create a new layer, a new layer for my legs. Actually, let me go back. There's one more thing we need to drag in. That's going to be his pants. Notice on the bottom here there's a thick stroke around the bottom of his pants. This one doesn't have that. So I'm going to plug this one in. And if you need to make really fine movements, you can use the arrow keys or zoom in. That'll help you. So now to my leg layer, I'm going to bring in, for instance, his right thigh. And later I can move this layer down so that the stroke around his thigh isn't showing. But for now I'm going to position it, add his right shin. So now I'm going to go modify my canvas if I can. If I don't like the height, I can make this, I think your monitors might be 1024 in height, give or take a little. That in place, and I've got a right shoe, and next I'm going to add the bone tool. So I'll drag from this one, thigh bones connected to the shin bone to the ankle bone. Okay, if you don't like the way your animation works, redraw the bones, reconnect them at different points, or remove some of your images. Say, for instance, the knee was too high up the thigh and it didn't look human. You might want to mess with that. So do a few test moves, make sure you like it. And if necessary, since we have the various, like we have the outline here, the stroke around his thigh, later on you'll be able to move, reposition the layers. So we might be able to pull some things down, move some up, so we can cover that up. There is a knee you can join, put on here, that if you wouldn't like that to show up. But the problem is connecting the bone to the knee. We don't want that to be a separate item, so we have to join it. Another way you can do is maybe edit a symbol. I think you can do that by double-clicking on it here. And then you know you're editing the symbol itself. So if I got rid of, I could use something like the color matching tool. So I'm going to zoom in 800 and airbrush this guy. This isn't Steeler there. the eyedropper. It's a color stealer. Then you can maybe use the brush tool and edit that out. If you were that particular, you don't have to do that for this one. So I'm going to zoom back out. Close the symbol I'm editing, so now I'm back in here. And we want to do a couple seconds worth of animation. Right down here we have 30 frames per second. So to make life a little easier, I'm going to go down to about 12 frames per second. It might give us a more choppier look. Play with it. Find something you want, but the more that you do, the more frames you obviously have to edit. So let's aim for 100 frames right now, maybe around 5 seconds worth. I'm going to right click, convert them to keyframes, and each time we have these one little dots, that means there's an armature, sort of a pose, and it'll generally fill in for us all the tweens. So if I jump here to frame 20, let me grab my armature, swing that to the other side. Let's get this guy high stepping. And as you know, you got to play with this. Looks like Squidward trying to dance. Okay, so now we have, as we notice, our placements on frame 1 and 2, and 20. So all of a sudden the prospect of doing 100 frames isn't that big a deal, because it does a lot of things for us. If we were doing frame by frame animation, which we may have to do some of that later, especially with mouth dialogue, that's a little more sophisticated. So what we want to do now, work for a 5-second animation. There's lots of things in here you can mess with. See what you can come up with.